Welcome back, everybody, to the return of Caravan of Garbage. Yes, we're well rested. Yes, we are well rested.
We're well rested, James.
Shut up,
You're going to leave
Mason.
all that in?
Shut up, Mason. Because we're here and we're very excited both to be back and also to be talking about the Hobbit trilogy. 3 movies, Mason, somehow.
Oh my God.
Now, leading up to these movies, obviously, both of us were huge fans of Lord of the Rings, the movies. And both of us have read some of the books, maybe.
There's some bold statements to make. Look, I enjoyed the cinematic releases of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I don't think I've ever seen the extended versions, honestly.
They're wonderful and delightful.
In what way?
They're longer, but
Right.
they're also wonderful and delightful.
Then
And
I'm going to be loving this version of The Hobbit, aren't I? Because it's way longer. No, so I've seen the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yep.
But I've never gotten through the Lord of the Rings books.
Same.
I give it a crack every couple of years, and it gets to the singing, and I have to tap out, which is about 3 pages in, honestly. But I have read The Hobbit in its entirety because
Right.
it is way shorter. And a breezier read.
Mm-hmm.
But prior to this, I'd not seen the Hobbit movies. I'd only seen the third one for some reason.
Also, if people could leave a like, that would be fantastic. And I got to say, Mason, leading up to these movies, I wasn't really feeling the hype. The gap had been kind of too long. And I'm like, I don't know, I've seen prequels before. And I'm just, I don't know whether this can be anything. Oh, Peter Jackson's back. Okay, I guess that's, but he's
Reluctantly back, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's back on this series that nearly killed him, right?
Yeah, that's right. So why don't we talk a bit about the lead up to this? So Guillermo del Toro, he spent 3 years of pre-production on this, but delays and legal disputes between New Line and Peter Jackson and the Tolkien estate, and MGM entered bankruptcy, as they often do.
Oh, sure, that's their defining characteristic. A New Line was like, can we turn this into a Nightmare on Elm Street movie somehow?
Yeah,
that's our bread and butter, really.
So I do want to talk about Guillermo del Toro's version of this, the two movies that he was going to make, but I might save that for the third video of this. So we'll circle back around. So this is how it started, right? Peter Jackson wanted the rights to The Hobbit initially, so that would be the first movie he ever made from this universe, right?
Oh, so this is years ago.
This was years ago. This is in
Okay.
like the mid-90s.
This is after that movie where he blows up like a cow or a goat or something with a rocket launcher. What movie is that?
Bad taste. I
Bad
wanna
taste.
say. And also, he was happy to write on these movies. He was happy to produce. He was happy for them to be set in the same universe.
He was happy to attach some dynamite to a goat or a sheep or something and just blow it up in a field.
That's right. But he also didn't want to compete with his previous films. But after Guillermo del Toro left because of multiple production delays, he kind of realized that it was too late to hire somebody competent enough to do this, so he reluctantly stepped back in. But he did so without doing any of the things he'd previously done. Before they shot on Lord of the Rings, there was 3.5 years of preparation.
Sure,
They did
right.
not shoot anything. It was just figuring out the storyboards, the animatics, the previs. None of that was done here. They just kind of blocked out some scenes and went, okay, if you stand here and I'll stand here, and then, you know.
Guys, I don't have time to read the book, honestly, so just improv. Just say some medieval stuff, I reckon, and that should be good, right?
Yeah. And also, he completely restructured the story to make it his own version of this. The original structure of this, completely different. And his idea also was to keep it as 2 movies initially. So what happened, he did, and the crew, a 254-day consecutive shoot.
Sure.
And this also came right off the back of him doing Tintin. He got like a stomach ulcer. He was out for a lot of it. He was basically trying to play catch up the entire time. The way that they described it, the people behind it, was they were basically laying tracks in front of them as the train was going.
No.
You're laying the tracks directly in front of the train.
But that ends well usually, right?
No, Mason,
You get to the station, you lay your last track down, and then you're in the station.
No, you get to the station and there's no station because you've just got off into the woods.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Anyways, I guess that also explains why this movie and these movies look like shit. And I think also a lot of that has to do with...
That's a fun lead-in. I like that. I like the pre-production thing, and then you just took a real big swipe at it.
Well, the thing is, right...
You beat me to it, honestly.
Because it was filmed in 48 frames per second, because apparently the human eye perceives things in 60 frames per second, so they thought the closer we get to that, the better. So they filmed it 48 frames per second in 5K in 3D. And as a result of that, this is just a hideous set of films that look fake the entire way through. And I think it's because there's this weird bloom and sheen over the top of everything. Everybody moves in a weird way, especially when you watch it as it was originally intended. And I think the reason there is that bloom and it's been brightened so much is because you'd be wearing 3D glasses watching this. So it needs to be kind of elevated.
Do you think perhaps the mistake was only limiting themselves to 3D? You think 4D could have done it? Some rumble seats or something? Smell-o-vision?
Maybe. But the thing is as well, in preparation for that, to be fair, they got the original concept artists back and they actually put on those red and blue glasses and drew 3D concept art to get a sense of this. And I'm like, that's a waste of time.
Those people have gone insane now. They're like, do you remember that you've heard of that experiment where these people put on glasses that made them see upside down?
Yeah.
And eventually their real vision flipped and they just started seeing upside down already. These people are seeing 3D. They're seeing double 3D.
They're seeing...
Because real life is 3D.
6D.
Ugh.
But the problem is also when you film it with this higher def, you can see the makeup, you can see the wig line, you can see individual strands of hair. You know, you can see when a tree doesn't look right, whether a rock is fake or a creature is CGI. All of those things kind of go away when you pare it down a bit. There's a reason movies, they're not supposed to look like this.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And I think, that is, we're leaning towards like that digital, super high def digital trend where you watch a scene and it's a bunch of characters in a room and it kind of feels like you are literally in the scene and it doesn't feel good at all.
I don't want to be
there.
there.
Feels super uncomfortable.
Feels unsafe.
Yeah.
Especially if they're having an argument. You're like, should I step in? Should I say something here? Should I tell Iron Man to come down?
This has all just been a misunderstanding, this. But is the solution then to watch it on a really low res thing, like your phone?
Yes, quite frankly.
Yeah. But that being said, one thing that I did like about this, all the deadbeat dwarves, love their little outfits. They've got all fun little different types of hair and facial hair, which I loved. But I hate them. To be clear, I hate them. I think from the first scene that they arrive in, just Gandalf and his deadbeat mates just showing up at Bilbo's house.
They both own that house eventually.
They both own that house. So Bilbo's house, just get out of here.
Yeah.
I want to call the cops on them.
And it's crazy that they're like, we did the dishes. You ate all the food.
Yeah.
You ate like his entire pantry, his whole larder, Mason.
A whole
He's
larder.
Gone.
All his blackberry wine.
Scratched a bloody thing into his door.
Yeah.
No good. I think also Martin Freeman is a wonderful choice. Even if it does break with the Lord of the Rings continuity, because there is a flashback in the original Lord of the Rings where we see Ian Holm collect the ring.
Oh, it's a young Ian Holm.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Ian Holm, as we see in this, he's not the Ian Holm that he was. There's even a scene in the original Lord of the Rings
where he's played by Andrew Dice Clay. It's insane.
Hey, hit your indic. No. Yeah, and Gandalf says to him, he's like, you haven't aged a day. And it's like, well, no, because he looked like Martin Freeman and now he looks like Ian Holm. He looks good for a man in his 80s, don't get me wrong. But I'm okay with the recast because, again, Martin Freeman is terrific. I think Ian McKellen is great. But I think, as you mentioned with the dwarves, there's too many and they don't really distinguish them enough because they're all bearded dwarf men with heavy prosthetics and coats on. And as the movies go on, we forget about 8 of them. You know, they just kind of blend into the background.
Do they die? Who knows?
Some do. Here's a question, though.
Go on.
The story of this, they're like, we have to get the Arkenstone, which is basically like the Ring of Power.
Oh, is that the plot of this?
That's the plot of this, Mason.
Huh.
And, you know...
I was just swept away by the majesty of it. By the end, I'm like, all right, I guess.
You should get that, I reckon.
Yeah. Oh, because it's the thing they find. It's in the mountain.
It's a big gem or whatever.
I have seen this, to be clear.
No, I know. On your phone.
You don't know, really.
No, I don't.
But they chipped through. They were mining the mine. And they found the heart of the mountain. Okay, right.
But I think also this movie leans too heavily into the Lord of the Ringsiness of this universe, where they need to really pare it down because it tries to be like, this is a big deal. Gandalf's meeting Galadriel. And he's like, well, we have to stop the dragon because what if Sauron gets a dragon? And it's like, who gives a shit? He's got like giant elephants and trolls, and he's got those dragon-esque creatures that are flying around. You know those big like snake bird things?
Yeah.
If he had another dragon, that would be like giving the US military a fighter jet that can shoot fire.
Sure.
It's like, who cares? It's an additional thing. He's got enough. It's not that big a deal. It goes too big, and there's too much guff in this.
Right.
Too much noise and wasted space. For example, the bird shit-eared wizard who's barely in this book.
Oh, Radagast the Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got that goop on his face the whole time. Very distracting.
It's bird shit, Mason.
I like that. I mean, it's better than some alternatives, but...
Some, I guess, yeah. You know, he's on his little rabbit sleigh, and there was a point in this where I'm like, I need to read this book because I remember the moment where Gandalf shows up at the trolls when they're going to eat everybody, and that's a fun little moment. And he's doing a bit of like, he's throwing his voice and he's making them argue against each other. And then as a result, they don't realize the sun's coming up and he tricks them into freezing in a very argumentative position. And we see that in Lord of the Rings. They come across them, right? Whereas this, he turns up and he goes, bam, I broke this rock. And then they freeze into like an argumentative pose.
Sure. Gandalf does a lot of just showing up after all the action has already taken place.
Yeah.
After the dwarves and Bilbo/Frodo have gotten in a spot of bother.
Yeah.
And they've nearly worked it out. Then he showed. Do you think he's just hiding behind like a rock or something?
That ties into the story as well, because as a result of that, I'm like, I'm going to read this. So look, when we come back to the next episode...
Oh, you haven't read it yet.
I will have read it. And just to quickly get back to Gandalf, he's throwing pine cones that are grenades. One moment he zaps a boulder off a roof. And again, in the original Lord of the Rings, he does magic, but it's more kind of vague, you know what I mean? It's like when he comes over the hill to like the two towers or whatever, it also coincides with the light coming over the mountain, you know? And it's like, is this magic? How is he doing this kind of thing? Is it just very well timed? I'm loving this guy. I'm loving what he's about.
Well, let me tell you this, James. I would rather it be very well defined. I would rather we see his Dungeons and Dragons stat sheet on screen every time he uses it, and we see the spell slots like he selects all his spells as he does them.
Maybe he takes a potion out of his bag.
Yeah, and we see the dice rolls happen, etc. I want to know his level.
Andrew dice rolls.
Yes, exactly. I want to see all his equipment. I want to see all his various stat numbers. I don't want any vagueness whatsoever. James, look, if this movie were a smaller adventure, I wouldn't care. But I think the fact that they have to face off against all these monsters and creatures and invading armies and trolls and orcs and all this sort of stuff, tell us exactly what your powers are. Why it's sometimes he gets in there, sometimes he doesn't.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I hate it. Remember we fought that Balrog and
that was so sick.
That was sick.
He was going off chops,
right?
mate.
Why didn't he do it in this?
He didn't want to, but sometimes he does want to.
Maybe he hadn't rested and his spell slots hadn't regenerated.
Exactly. Yeah, he needs to build the fire and recoup his energies. Maybe collect some coin. Anyways, here's something I love. I love Hobbiton. Now, in the first movie, they rented this land from a local New Zealand farmer.
Okay.
They built temporary...
Sam Neill?
Yeah, Sam Neill. They built temporary housing structures upon it, with the condition being that when we go, this will be restored back to the way it was.
With dynamite.
Yeah, exactly. But that person who owns that land...
Peter Jackson style will dynamite this.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to dynamite all of your creatures and all this land. So it went back to the way it was. But though the person who owns that land was running tours, right? So in between movies. So this time around, the decision was to build this permanently into the land. So they rebuilt Hobbiton, and it's still there. You can visit it. And it's incredible. It's really amazing. There's like real stone structures and bridges and roofs and wooden doors.
Can I take something out of the larder?
No, Mason. The dwarves took all the stuff out of the larder. You can blame them.
Well, if this guy's got a free tourist attraction on his land, the least he could do is refill the larder and I can take a big wheel of cheese on my way out the door. All right?
Yeah, you're not wrong, yeah. The other thing which I think is really missing from this is the way that they didn't break Ian McKellen like they did on these set of movies.
Oh, sure.
So I don't know if you've seen the behind-the-scenes imagery of the original movie, but a lot of the times when he's interacting with hobbits or, you know, dwarves or anybody who's of a different stature, they use a forced perspective trick.
Sure, funny little building that's shaped in a weird way.
Yeah, exactly.
A real MC Escher style building.
Like the table will be, you know, positioned a certain way, and then also, even when the camera is moving, the sets will move so you don't lose that perspective.
Okay.
But here's the thing, you can't do that when you're shooting 3D because you're shooting on two cameras. So that forced perspective trick does not work in 3D.
Oh, no.
So they had to shoot him entirely separately on a green screen, and it just broke his brain.
Interesting.
There's moments where he's just like got his head in his hands and he's like, I can't. I'm a real actor and you're killing me. You are literally killing me.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish
He's still good.
I
He's
wish I
still
was
great.
being Magneto right now.
Just tell me what happens, and then I'll try and do it without you. Okay. Telling me.
Here's something I also like, though. I like Thorin Oakenshield's sick name and origin.
Same, yeah.
He's out there, he picks up that thing and he's like, I'm gonna kill this, I'm gonna take this guy's arm off this big orc and whatever. And there's a moment where they're like, this orc is dead, this orc is gone. I'm like, he's not gone, that guy.
Come on.
And, you know, he's the only giant CGI white bald orc in this movie with one arm.
Yes.
And then there's a moment where you see an orc who's bald and CGI with one arm with his back to camera. And it's like, and then he turns around and the music is like, dun, 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 dun. And it's like, yeah, no, I know who that is. Like
That's Andrew Dice Clay.
Hey, something rude.
Nice.
You know what he's like.
Yeah, hell yeah. Something rude but medieval. Middle Earth, more like middle of my ass.
You know
what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
Yeah, it would be like that.
We'll get more into this in the next videos, but also the elves, awful. Why would they help these horrible little men in their caves collecting gold? You know, where they're like, come and help us, come and help us get our caves and our gold back. Why? Why should they do that?
Because it's nice thing to do.
You know what? The dwarves should just invent a paper currency. Let it go.
Sure.
It's not a big deal.
Perhaps some sort of blockchain-based digital currency?
Something that is basically outside of all required legal systems and outcomes, Mason.
Interesting.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
It's not so much about owning the gold, it's about owning a picture of the gold. And then
That's
you know
terrific.
that you have that gold.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, look, I don't like the elves in this because they're rude and hoity-toity, unlike the books where they're very much like, fa-la-la, fiddle-dee-dee. I read a little bit of The Hobbit, I should point out.
The fa-la-la fiddle-dee-dee bit.
Yeah. And they're always like, look at this guy, he's walking around, where in the movies they're like,
Look at this guy walking around.
Here's something I also think that this movie showed great restraint in. Here's a compliment, Mason.
Oh, I'm excited to hear about this.
There's a moment where Bilbo is sneaking up on one of the trolls, and he's right behind his big troll bottom, and the troll doesn't do a big fart.
That is very restrained, isn't it? Yes.
I was
that's
just
very good.
waiting for it. I'm like, when's the troll going to do a big fart? Oh, he didn't. Very classy.
You know what I thought was very restrained as well is that at one point Gandalf is like, they're running in fear of something, probably orcs or something, and Gandalf's like, come down here, you fools!
Yeah.
And I'm like, were they trying to make that his catchphrase? Because remember in the Lord of the Rings, he's like, fly, you fools! Do you think they were trying to make it like,
okay.
you know, everything would be like,
I think because it's a prequel, he's workshopping some
pass
stuff.
me that pipe weed, you fools!
That's rude, Gandalf.
It is rude, yeah.
Anyway, they got Christopher Lee back, didn't they? They filmed all that stuff in... a
closet?
In England.
Blue screen, blue/green screen closet.
Because Christopher Lee was 1,000,000 years old when they filmed this, and if they put him on a plane, he would have died.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, that's good, though. It's good they got him back.
Just unambiguously evil.
I know, right?
Always. He's always just been...
Yeah.
Is there any clues he's going to turn bad in Lord of the Rings? Well, he looks like that, and he sounds like that, and he acts like that.
Gandalf's like, there's a big spooky necromancer, like, I think it's like, you know, that dude with the ring, I think he's back. And Christopher Lee's like, I don't think so. No. I don't reckon you'd even look at that, I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about the Gollum scene? I think there are a couple of CGI characters in this. Well, there's quite a few. There's Dame Edna Everage as playing the king of the cave trolls with the big rubbery beard.
That's a local reference.
It certainly is, Mason. Love all that performance, by the way. You know, Azog, as mentioned, he also...
Oh, is it actually Barry Humphries?
Yeah, no, it is.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
I thought we were just saying that
No,
that
it's
monster
him.
was Dame Edna-esque. Okay, right.
Yeah. So Azog, as mentioned, well, he was actually a last-minute digital edition.
Oh.
They had to CGI out
Andrew Dice Clay.
That's right. Hey, you'll never get rid of me. You'll have to use your fancy computers.
Why have I decided on this? I don't know. I guess I'm always thinking about him. Anyway.
So Azog, the white orc, they had to digitally remove him and then put him back in. Manu Bennett actually plays him, which is fun, but it just seems like...
Oh, he was Deathstroke.
Yeah, he was Deathstroke for a time, yeah.
Yeah.
It just seems like unnecessary, and he looks so different than everybody else that it's strange.
Yeah,
you
right.
know?
Mm-hmm.
But Gollum, though, it's a great scene. It's just straight out of the book. They're doing little riddles, which I can't really keep up with, because in a book you can kind of like, okay, what's his?
You know, I'll tell you this much though, James. For a guy, given that Bilbo challenges Gollum,
I think his name's Frodo, but go on.
yeah. Well, this Hobbit guy, he challenges Gollum to a test of riddles.
Yeah.
If I was going to do that, I reckon I'd have more than like 2 riddles ready to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't run out of riddles on round 3. Also, and I look, what have I got in my pockets is not a riddle.
No.
And Gollum should have killed him.
I agree. It's nothing. Do you think that's
Oh, it's actually a question? And you said ask me any question. No, you said riddles. You challenged him to riddles, not a riddle.
Do you think Tolkien just ran out of riddles? He's like, I need to move this along.
Yeah, I think so, because you couldn't just Google riddles back then.
No, you couldn't.
You couldn't,
have to
that's
think
right.
of a riddle or know somebody who knew a riddle. And nobody knew anybody
Yeah,
then.
they were looking to Tolkien for riddles.
Yeah.
He only had the 2. So
Yeah.
they didn't have like workplace email forwards.
No.
of riddles
Oh my
back
God,
then.
where you could print them off and show your family
Show your
and
family
friends.
friends, yeah.
Yeah. But I think Gollum, that's a really good example of tech evolving, but keeping the core of what that character looks like. Because he's
Gross.
clearly, gross. Because he's clearly Like there's more detail on the skin texture and the hair and the eyes. It's clearly come along in leaps and bounds, but it still feels very much like the original one. And again, Andy Serkis, who eventually stepped in and started doing a lot of second unit directing on this because they shot for a million years.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he really...
And where is he now? Venom 2?
He's doing Venom
Directed
2,
Venom
mate.
2.
It's a great scene. Those Eagles, though. I know people are always talking about the Eagles. Why don't the Eagles come in and save the day and whatever? Well, they did.
Why the Eagles keep saying they were going to retire, but then they didn't? They said we're going to retire when hell freezes over, and then the hell freezes over tour.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the band The Eagles.
The band, yeah.
Isn't it wild, James, that the same band produced the song "Take It Easy" and "Hotel California"?
Yeah, I guess.
You can take this out. It's fine.
You know, why is it wild though?
I don't know. They just
So they made two songs.
They just sound very different. They sound like two different bands.
But Red Hot Chili Peppers have two different songs.
No, they don't.
They got the song that goes
And then they've got the song about California.
The sad one.
The sad one about California. Okay, you're right.
But so, anyway, to get back to the Eagles, I don't understand why they didn't drop them closer to the mountain. Like, the Eagles pick them up and go, we've rescued you. Thorin thanks and is like, Bilbo, you're all right for a second time. He gives Bilbo, actually, you're all right, twice.
He does, yeah.
You don't need to do that.
And for the second time, he gave him the classic fake out.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm going to kill you. Just kidding. You're all
actually
right.
great. You know, when we went on this adventure, I said, Bilbo, you're awful and you suck and you're ugly.
Yeah.
And your feet are weird. Like, and we've got weird feet, but your feet actually take the disgusting cake.
You upset me.
That's
you
right.
upset everybody you're around. You upset your mother. It's just laid into him.
But actually, I love you like a brother.
Yeah, big hugs. But the Eagles are like, oh, look where the Eagles have dropped us. About 40 kilometers from where you need to be. Terrific.
Maybe there's turrets. Maybe there's like air defense.
Oh,
the Eagles
okay.
can't get close, you know?
Yeah, I guess the Eagles can't get close.
Like a ballista. Maybe the Eagles fear trebuchets, like the band the Eagles do.
Do they?
Yeah.
Wow.
Had a bad experience at Woodstock.
Cowards.
Those trebuchets.
Cowards, Mason.
The Hells Angels were operating trebuchets.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's true.
It's crazy. Anyways, it's time for green trivia.
Whoa.
Here are some names which auditioned for the role of Bilbo Baggins.
Whomst auditioned
Here we
the
go.
role of Bilbo Baggins?
Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh.
Shia LaBeouf.
Oh.
Eddie Redmayne.
Oh.
James McAvoy.
A lot of these people are way too tall. I know
You could be any height.
Yeah, I know, but I feel like the technology requires a shortish person to start with, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. Daniel Radcliffe's he's like 4'2".
Yeah, I'm talking more about Redmayne. That's like 9 feet tall. Are you Googling the height of Eddie Redmayne right
What
now?
if I am, Mason?
I bet he's 6'1".
Eddie Redmayne height. It's 5'11 and a half. 5'11 and a quarter, sorry.
Okay, still too tall.
Toby Maguire.
Oh.
But the first choice was, of course, Martin Freeman. And the whole shooting schedule of this had to be changed because Peter Jackson wanted him so badly that this was all built around the TV show Sherlock.
Sure.
Which was good for an episode or two, I believe.
First two, yeah, they were
Thinking
good.
back
Yeah.
to that show. Brett from Flight of the Conchords reprises his role as Elf that was barely in the previous trilogy. But he gets a big speaking part and he's like, hello, I was in the previous one and now I'm here and I'm from New Zealand, so I'm here. I got
Yeah.
famous in between movies.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Also, one of the dwarfs is he played. He's that guy. He's the guy we all know. He played Jekyll in the TV series Jekyll.
Oh, James Nesbitt.
Speaking of Sherlock,
My goodness.
what else has he been in? Other stuff.
British funny sitcom.
A lot of British funny sitcoms. Sure.
Yeah. The working title of this movie was actually Blue Harvest.
That's
which
interesting.
Was the same working title for the original Star Wars from 1977.
So the fans wouldn't cotton on.
That's
to
right.
The secrets.
They didn't know. Exactly. Also, here's some catering numbers because this was an absolutely breathtaking undertaking.
You have catering numbers there.
You better believe
How
I
many
did,
wheels
mate.
of cheese?
How many wheels of
Did
cheese?
they eat authentically?
Nah, I reckon.
Okay,
It's
just
like-
McDonald's every day.
Yeah, here's some
that spread of cold McDonald's that a president might supply you with.
Yeah. So they maxed out at food, including, crew and extras and all of that, at 580 people per day.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a bloody army.
Too many people. I just do box office, but I actually haven't looked it up yet. Oh my goodness.
James, you have all the time in the world.
La 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 la. So Mason, the production budget of this movie alone was $200 million.
It's quite a lot, actually.
I agree. And the overall worldwide box office was 1 billion, just over 1 billion, Mason, and 14,000, etc. and so forth. There's a variety of numbers here. Here they are. Ben and Lawrence, who edit this, would have put them in. So
I'd be happy with that return.
That's right. So people, they were very excited to go back to theatres to see this movie. Now look, after I saw this one, I went, okay, I I guess we'll see, won't we? I guess I'll wait a year for this story I don't give a shit about to wrap up. And I did. And then I waited another year. But you guys, listening to this and watching this, you only have to wait a week till we come back to talk about The Hobbit, Smaug time.
Smaug to the future.
Which I think has some good stuff in it, which we will talk about again next week. All in all, Mason, how did you feel visiting for the first time this movie?
It's all right.
Yeah.
For a movie that cost $200 million and shaved a few years off everybody's life. Yeah, it was fun, I guess.
Yeah.
Well done, everybody.
I got 50 minutes in, and I'm like, damn, there's 9 hours of this.
Sure is.
And no, we are not doing the extended version. I know we're going to get the comments.
No, yes, we are, James.
No.
How could they? They'd never know.
Yeah, I guess they wouldn't. Anyways, this is Caravan of Garbage. Yes, we do this every week. And if you would like to see these early, you can. If you head over to bigsandwich.co, where in addition to early videos, there is also bonus movie commentaries, where there is also bonus podcasts, including our comic book club, or the one that we do on Clickbait. There's also our podcast, The Weekly Planet, where we talk movies and comics and TV shows. That comes out a day early on Sunday, as opposed to Monday, Mason.
Whoa.
Which is available on all platforms. It's got its own YouTube channel. You can find it basically everywhere. If you walked outside and threw a rock, you'd probably hit somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who accidentally downloaded an episode once.
It's terrific.
That's how popular we
Hit
are.
somebody with a rock and be like, listen to the Weekly Planet podcast.
Hey. You know, because it's rude.
You hit Andrew Dice Clay.
Oh, did you? I thought you were Andrew Dice Clay.
No.
Okay, great.
He's a singular individual.
Yeah, I guess he is, isn't he? All right, thanks, everybody.
I mean, him and Dennis Leary.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Grab that jam, you guys. We'll see you next week.
Goodbye.